"Sir, you can't afford this guitar." The words came out automatically. Jake Martinez, 22 years old, 6 months into his job at Vintage Strings Guitar Shop in Greenwich Village, had said it 100 times to window shoppers, older guys in worn clothes who wandered in off the street, touched expensive guitars, then left without buying anything. This guy was no different, or so Jake thought. November 2015, Wednesday afternoon. The shop was quiet, and the man who'd just walked in, gray messy hair, faded denim jacket, work boots that had seen better days, was looking at the Martin D28 in the display case. The $45,000 Martin D28. Jake watched from behind the counter. The man's hands were weathered, his face deeply lined. He looked like he'd spent his life working construction, not playing guitars that cost more than a car. The man leaned closer to the case, studying the guitar intently. Jake stood up, walked over. Time to redirect this guy before he wasted more time. "That's a 1961 Martin D28, Jake said, his voice polite but firm. "Original. Mint condition. It's $45,000. The man nodded slowly. "I can see the price tag." Jake gave the same smile he used when he wanted people to leave. "Maybe I can show you something in our beginner section? We have some great guitars in the $500 to $1,000 range." The man turned and looked at Jake for the first time. His eyes were blue, tired, but sharp. "I'm not a beginner." Jake's smile tightened. "I understand, but this particular guitar is very expensive. It's a collector's piece. Most people just look at it." "I'm not most people." What happened in the next 5 minutes would become the most embarrassing moment of Jake Martinez's life, because the man standing in front of him, the one Jake had just dismissed as someone who couldn't afford a $45,000 guitar, was about to pick it up and play it. And when he did, Jake would realize something that would haunt him forever. He just told Bob Dylan he couldn't afford a guitar. If stories about judging people by appearance move you, subscribe right now and comment. Have you ever misjudged someone completely? Because what happened in this guitar shop is something we've all done and regretted. But Jake didn't know that yet. He was still trying to get rid of this guy. "Look, I don't mean to be rude," Jake said, his voice dropping, "but that guitar is $45,000. It's not for casual browsing." The man's expression didn't change. "Can I hold it?" Jake hesitated. Store policy was clear. Expensive guitars stayed in the case unless the customer was serious. And this guy, definitely not serious. But before Jake could say no, the man spoke again. "I've been playing Martin D28 since 1961. I know how to handle one." Something in his voice made Jake pause. 1961? That was 54 years ago. This guy would have been... Jake did the math. 20 years old in 1961, which made him 74 now. Jake looked at the man more carefully. Yeah, probably mid-70s, but that didn't mean he could afford it. "Okay," Jake said finally, "but please be careful." He unlocked the case and carefully removed the guitar. The 1961 Martin D28 was the crown jewel of the shop. Vintage mahogany back and sides, spruce top, original tuning pegs, mint condition. Jake handed it to the man, watching nervously as those weathered hands took the guitar. The man held it like he was holding something sacred, adjusted it on his knee, tested the weight, ran his fingers over the fretboard. Then he started tuning it. Jake blinked. The guitar was already in tune, but the man was making micro-adjustments, tiny tweaks that only someone with perfect pitch would notice. Then he started playing. The fingerpicking was perfect, absolutely perfect. Jake had worked at Vintage Strings for 6 months. He'd seen hundreds of guitarists, good ones, great ones, professionals who'd played for decades, but this was different. This was mastery. The man's fingers moved across the strings like water, fluid, effortless, every note clean and clear. The song was familiar, something old, folk music from the 1960s. Jake couldn't place it, but it was beautiful. The man's eyes were closed, his face completely relaxed, like he'd disappeared into the music. A customer near the door stopped browsing, turned to watch. Then another customer. Within a minute, 4 people were standing still, listening. One pulled out his phone, started recording. Jake felt something drop in his stomach. "Who is this guy?" The song continued. The man's voice joined the guitar, rough, nasal, but strangely compelling. The melody wound through the shop like smoke. The customer with the phone suddenly gasped. "Wait," he said, loud enough for everyone to hear. "Are you Bob Dylan?" The music stopped. The man opened his eyes, looked at the customer, a slight smile. "Some people call me that." The room went strangely quiet. Jake's face went hot. His hands started shaking. Bob Dylan, the Bob Dylan. The man Jake had just told couldn't afford a guitar. The man Jake had directed to the beginner section. The other customers were pulling out phones now, whispering, pointing. "Oh my God, it is him. Bob Dylan is in this shop. Are you recording this?" Dylan set the guitar down carefully on the counter, looked at Jake. Those blue eyes weren't angry, just knowing. "So," Dylan said in that distinctive voice, "still think I can't afford it?" Jake's mouth opened. No sound came out. Dylan pointed to the wall behind the counter. "You got a photo back there, black and white, 1965, Newport Folk Festival." Jake turned. The photo had been there since he started working. Part of the shop's decoration, vintage music memorabilia. A young man with dark curly hair, holding a guitar. Martin D. 28, the caption underneath. Bob Dylan with Martin D. 28, Newport Folk Festival, 1965. Jake had walked past that photo every single day for 6 months, never really looked at it. Now he looked at the photo, then at the old man standing in front of him. 50 years older, gray instead of dark, lined instead of smooth. But the same person, the same hands holding the same model guitar. Jake felt his throat close up. "Mr. Dylan," he managed to say, "I'm so sorry. I didn't recognize you." Dylan picked up the guitar again, examined it closely. "You know when I bought my first Martin D. 28? 1961. I was 20 years old, saved up for 6 months, cost me $320. He set it back down. "Now it's worth $45,000. Funny how that works." Jake couldn't move, couldn't think. Dylan continued, his voice quiet but clear. "You looked at my clothes, my boots, my hair, and you decided I couldn't afford this guitar. You didn't judge me by what I know. You judged me by what I look like. That's a mistake." The shop was completely silent now. 6 customers watching, all recording. Jake wanted to disappear. "Mr. Dylan," he said, his voice cracking, "I was wrong, completely wrong." Dylan nodded. "You were. But you know what? You're 22. You're going to be wrong about a lot of things. The question is, will you learn?" He gestured to the Martin D. 28. "I'm going to buy this guitar, not because I need it. I've got Martins at home, but because I want to." Jake blinked. You're going to buy it?" "Yeah." Dylan picked up the guitar one more time, held it like an old friend. "This guitar was made in 1961. Same year I bought my first Martin. Somewhere out there is a kid who's 20 years old right now, saving up, dreaming about owning a guitar like this. Maybe that kid looks broke. Maybe that kid looks like they can't afford it. But that kid is me, 54 years ago. And if someone like you judges them before they even try, they might give up." Dylan set the guitar down, pulled out a wallet, handed Jake a credit card. "Ring it up, $45,000. Jake's hands were shaking as he took the card. As Jake processed the payment, Dylan wandered around the shop, looked at other guitars, asked questions about the shop's history. After the transaction finished, Dylan came back to the counter. "Jake," Dylan said, "that's your name, right? On your name tag?" "Yeah." Dylan pulled out his checkbook, wrote something, tore out the check, handed it to Jake. Jake looked at it. His eyes went wide. A generous amount, made out to Jake Martinez, with a note in the memo line, "For your education." "Mr. Dylan, I can't." "You can. Use it for school. Or don't. Up to you." Dylan's voice was quiet. "But remember why you got it. Not because you deserved it, Because someone gave you a chance to learn. Now you give someone else that same chance. Dylan left with the guitar 20 minutes later, signed autographs for every customer, took photos, answered questions. The whole time, Jake stood behind the counter holding the check. After Dylan left, the shop erupted. Customers couldn't believe it. The owner, when Jake called him, couldn't believe it. Social media exploded. The videos went viral. Bob Dylan plays guitar in Greenwich Village shop. Guitar shop employee doesn't recognize Bob Dylan. Dylan buys $45,000 guitar after being told he can't afford it. Jake became internet famous, but not in a good way. The comments were brutal. How do you not recognize Bob Dylan? This kid works in a music shop and doesn't know Dylan? Generation Z doesn't know anything. But Jake didn't cash the check. He framed it, hung it on the wall, right next to the 1965 Newport photo. And underneath, Jake added a caption he wrote himself, "The day Bob Dylan taught me not to judge people." November 18th, 2015. Jake Martinez. 3 years later, a kid walked into Vintage Strings guitar shop. 19 years old, ripped jeans, dirty sneakers, backpack over one shoulder, looked broke. The kid stopped at the display case. The Martin D28, now $52,000. Jake, now 25 and assistant manager, walked over. The kid looked nervous. Can I just look at it?" Jake remembered another afternoon, another customer, another judgment. He unlocked the case. "You can do more than look at it," Jake said. "You can play it." The kid's eyes went wide. "Really? But it's so expensive." "I know, but that doesn't matter. Can you play?" The kid nodded. Jake handed over the guitar. The kid played. Not as well as Dylan, but with heart, with passion. When the kid finished, Jake said, "That was good. Keep practicing, keep dreaming, and never let anyone tell you that you can't afford your dreams." The kid smiled. Put the guitar back carefully. "Thank you. That was really cool of you." After the kid left, Jake looked at the wall, at the photo of young Dylan, at the framed check, at his own caption. "Some lessons are expensive, but some lessons are priceless. And sometimes the guy in the worn-out boots knows more about guitars than everyone else in the room combined. You just have to give him a chance to play."